what the miners have found is so amazing. Cannot wait until it's written up. We must get this intelligence out to folks immediately. Michael, what are you finding about Zoom and TikTok?
We are finding a classical definition of interlocking directorships and investors. We're seeing the same set of investors across TikTok, its parent company, ByteDance, and with Zoom Communications. Common investors, and what we're seeing is the pattern that we're now used to is that, but this is a little different because the attention has focused on investments coming out of China that are facilitated by American underwriters and venture capitalists out of Silicon Valley. And so the first, the second, or third layer, we see all of the companies in China that are investing in these companies. And then magically, we see all of the real players under the Chinese umbrella coming out of London, and even members of the Privy Council. So it all goes back to Britain.
Pilgrims.
Yep.
I smell the stench of pilgrims. Why do we think that the Chinese are not as bad a communists as the Russian communists? I mean, that's just stupid. They're 1,000 times worse.
Here's the thing. I think that the confusion that has been created is because of these interlocking relationships. And while now the Chinese are the current political whipping boy, what we're seeing is they are lackeys of the Pilgrim Society out of London. And that's where this is really coming from. It's not coming from the Chinese.
Walmart is the big backer of Zoom along with Oracle, but nobody can state, that they have proof of that.
We've seen Walmart come up in this several times. So what we've got researchers doing is creating spreadsheets of these interlocking relationships. And this is proof, because this is all coming out of the SEC. So with any documents coming from the SEC, those are judicially recognizable items of evidence that these organizations and individuals have signed off on as true and reliable for public evaluation. And therefore, you can take these right to court.
Of the 20 largest tech companies in the world, 9 of them are Chinese. Now, how did they become that way? They invited over Google and Facebook and every other big tech
and Goldman
company.
Sachs and T. Rowe Price and the Vanguard Group. That's the money behind it.
You look it up and you say, well, is Google in China? No, they were tricked. They got the Google software, and then Google's headquarters was hacked. When they got caught, then the Chinese banned Google from China. That happened with Facebook. It happened with eBay. It happened with Amazon. It happened with everybody. Because why? They just get the technology, as they always do. They steal it, and then they do these weird things like the One Belt, One Road hegemony economic predatory plan that basically says China should rule the world and the rest of us should simply get in line behind them. That's insane. But let's just look. The data mining that happened recently, because China has, of course, access through Zoom, through Huawei. Five Eyes has been breached because of Huawei, and I was thrilled that when CFIUS looked at Huawei doing 5G in America, Trump at the very last minute said no. So I'm very happy he's saying no to TikTok. Baidu, which is basically Google, they hacked Google to create Baidu. That's the 4th largest Chinese tech company. And then they're all interlinked through ByteDance, which is controlled out of Beijing. They have a new system, ByteDance does, and of course ByteDance controls TikTok, which is spying on everyone in America, especially our children.
You mentioned ByteDance and you mentioned Zoom. Sequoia Capital put $100 million in Zoom in 2015 and put $100 million into ByteDance in 2018. So we're talking about the same people under the covers.
These are the Central Committee oligarchs of the Chinese Communist Party, because every contract in China builds the Communist Party committee into it. They have the final approval, just like the Queen has her golden chairs.
Let me just describe for you some of the linking relationships related to TikTok/ByteDance. Besides the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese Ministry of Public Security, we have Kohlberg, Kravis, and Roberts. We have SoftBank, Sequoia Capital, Yale, Hillhouse Capital Group. That happens to be the richest man in Hong Kong. We have General Atlantic Partners, BlackRock, Rockefeller University, Sloan Kettering, McKinsey & Co., Tsinghua University, Council on Foreign Relations, Morgan Stanley, Tiger Management, Susquehanna International Group, Google, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, GE, PepsiCo, Microsoft, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash. These are all judicially recognizable relationships right from the SEC's own documents.
Every one of those economic predators is going to be ripped off by China. The Chinese invite them in, steal their softwares, and then they kick them out, and then China sanctions them. When Eric Schmidt went over and developed Dragonfly for China, he came back and he was asked immediately upon arriving back in America, did you really build a social credit system that would basically digitally imprison the Chinese called Dragonfly? And he said, oh, no. It's not real yet. It won't happen for 2 years. It's just a plan. That's all. No, within 2 months, it was 100% completely in the works in China to control the people there. Now, that's where we're headed, and it's already here in America. That is what Michael McKibben basically warned us of, called the dark profile. That's what the Chinese Communist government wants. They want to be able to control everything.
You're right, but I think that the real key still is to make sure that we understand that when we say China, we say Britain. And the British have been very clever about how they did this. And what we're also finding is in a number of these interlocking companies, they also have their companies in the UK where they are driving these organizations 2 or 3 or 4 layers deep. So the thing that I think that's got to happen in Washington is we've got to get a number of researchers on this in Congress who are actually doing the deep dive and figuring out all these interlocking relationships. There's plenty of money in the government. Let's get them doing some actual work and look at these interlocking relationships. This by itself will tell the whole story.
Mike, we were notified by one of our AIM patriots who said that he was in a meeting with the Chief Intelligence Officer for Homeland Security, and there were advanced AI programmers in there, and they're using Zoom. And he's saying to them, we can't use Zoom because people are listening in, and these people are saying, no, it's okay. So it makes me wonder if this Chief Intelligence Officer is not deliberately using Zoom so the Chinese can listen in.
Well, this is Hillary's game.
Well, President Trump, please, we need to not only end TikTok, we need to end all applications of Zoom in the United States, because we have Zoom in the classrooms now, in businesses, in the federal government. We had to go to a court case and it was on Zoom. This is not acceptable. It must end. And if TikTok is violating the rules and conditions of China operating in the United States, well, then Zoom is doing it even bigger.
What we see here is a continuation of that same plan that the Pilgrims hatched to take over the world using technology.
Yeah, well, look, when I go into a site and I have to agree to all their terms and conditions, I don't want to have to read through a mountain of information to see if I've given up my rights as a citizen of the United States. And that's what signing the Miller Act notice and getting control of the main license would do for we the people. That way, when President Trump, working through the executive office, would issue, Michael, you'll have to help me with the words here, the secondary license from the main one. What is that called? An
end user license agreement.
Okay, that it says in there specifically that we're not giving away our rights. And that companies that do this, who spy on us, collect our data, and share this information with China, sorry, you can't use, you lose your license to use this product.
Yeah, the implications of the amount of data going out the door right now are truly, I said it yesterday, are frightening. And it's much farther along. We didn't know exactly where to look, but now that's coming out with this TikTok controversy. But what we're seeing is that every one of these interlocking relationships and the companies they've funded need to be shut down. That will create shockwaves in the financing community, because we're talking about their major sources of revenue right now. If we've got millions in dollars coming into American companies, the Chinese have billions.
But we have no choice because we're talking about American sovereignty and its future if we don't take action now.
Correct.